Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church here in Plano, Texas. Glad you're here in person or joining us online. My name is Reverend Dr. Aija Duelm. I am the minister of this congregation. And we are a liberal faith. We welcome all in our doors, whether you're returning here for many, many years in a row, looking to be part of this community, looking for strength and healing and inspiration for your journey, or whether you are new to this congregation and coming here, exploring and trying to see whether there might be something here that could speak to your heart and your heart's longings. Here in this community, we are committed to affirm the dignity of every human being. We strive to work for justice, and we honor wisdom that is found in all faiths and all religions. Each one of us joins in the mission of this congregation to nourish the spirits, work for justice, and transform lives. We do this in different ways, but together we accomplish so much more than alone. Wherever you are on your journey, I'm glad you are joining us here. For the call to worship, I chose words that were written by Eric Walker Wickstrom. We come together this morning because within us there is something that knows we need more than we can find in our aloneness. We know instinctively in the depth of ourselves that we need others for this journey of life, even though we also guard our independence and individuality quite jealously. So let us celebrate all that makes us unique, yet also all that makes us one. And let us dream dreams of all that we can do together. Come, let us worship together.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Steve Mason, one of your worship associates, part of the team that works to bring the service to you wherever you may be. I'd like to share with you a reading titled The Swan, the Pike, and the Crab by Ivan Krilov. When air companions don't agree, they work without accord, and naught but trouble does result, although they work hard. One day a swan, a pike, and a crab resolved a load to haul. All three were harnessed to the cart and pulled together all. But though they pulled with all their might, the cartload on the bank stuck tight. The swan pulled upward to the skies, the crab did backward crawl. The pike made for the water straight, it proved no use at all. Now which of them was most to blame? This not for me to say, but this I know, the load is there until this very day.
Last year in May, I went to visit my family in Latvia. I was looking forward to being with you in July, and so I wanted to make my trips before that. Well, it turns out that in May, an international ice hockey federation organizes Ice Hockey World Championship. Any ice hockey fans here? No? Well, you have to listen to me anyways. Because I want to tell you about my experience last year, because I witnessed a historical moment. Just to give you an idea what ice hockey means in Latvia, you need to imagine all the fans of football, baseball, basketball, and golf combined in the US, and then add a little. And that's because ice hockey was big and it was supported during the Soviet occupation. Several Latvian players became famous. And then when Latvia became independent, one of the biggest and most meaningful events took place in 2000 when Latvia's national ice hockey team beat Russia. And that happened on a day that was Latvia's Independence Day. A highly ranking Latvian goaltender, Irbe, said it was good for soul, including my own. And I don't think I have cried in my whole career by winning games or winning tournaments, but that was the one game I cried. And I'm not in any way ashamed of it. That was the proudest moment being Latvian as far as I can remember. Beating Russia is more sticking it to the oppressors, and we have been oppressed for so long. Latvia's national team had never reached beyond the quarterfinals in any major championship until this last year in May, when they won bronze medal for the first time in history. It was a remarkable achievement, and Latvian fans made news. The government announced a new national holiday. So that was the following Monday, so that the fans can properly meet the players and celebrate the victory. In my hometown, there is a long-standing tradition that when Latvia's ice hockey team wins, people get in their cars and they parade through town. There were several parades last May. This is the starting car, and they parade through. The initial parades were 180 cars, then 220 when Latvia made to semifinals, and then the final parade had more than 800 cars in a town with 8,400 people. And I was in one of those cars. It was unbelievable to watch all the games and witness this victory. The first game was a clumsy one. The players couldn't seem to notice that they were not alone on the ice. And within the first 5 minutes of the game, Canada had already scored 2 goals. That's when Latvia's team decided to change their goaltender. And they put in Artūrs Šilovs and it changed the whole game. Artūrs Šilovs scored a record during this tournament. He stopped 258 shots, which is the highest of any tournament ever. And his save percentage is .921. He was named the most valuable player of the game, of the tournament, of the championship. He's only 22 years old, by the way, at the time. But his presence and his play gave the rest of the team confidence. They can put their best effort forward. They can play with one another. They can trust that they have their backs in this game. And after one of the victories, Rodrigo Abols, one of their players, said, "Together we are strongest." Well, whether it is about ice hockey or another team sport, or just us as a congregation, it still rings true that we are stronger when we are together, when we work together as a team. Most of us are probably familiar with research and suggestions about what makes a team effective. You may have heard these suggestions at your workplace or read these in a magazine or books or online sites. And what the research says is that effective teamwork doesn't just happen on its own, that it takes good problem-solving skills It requires communication and interpersonal skills. It requires that each person with unique set of skills has a part to play in this work together. It requires for people to know that every person on this team is dependent on each other. And they have to work together in an atmosphere of trust. When every person feels the ownership for their work and knows that they are a valuable part of this community, that is when the best work is done. You may say, well, I'm not big into team sports, and I'm not much of a team player. I'd rather do my own thing because I know how to do it well. What the research says and shows that there are some psychological and spiritual benefits to teamwork. And those show up whether that is work, church, or even life itself. In teamwork, there is a psychological safety that encourages more engagement, creativity, and innovation. It also leads to learning. When a team works as a unit, everyone gets to learn from each other and also about themselves. There is personal growth that happens. There is increased job satisfaction, and then there is a reduced stress. I keep this frame in my office to remind that alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. Because as a congregation, we are a team. We are not individuals who are just happen to sit together here today, but a community. And there is power in working together. There is strength in working together. We each bring our gifts and ideas and compassion and passion, and we bring our hopes to this community. Whether our contributions are big and huge, or they might be big, small, not as big, seemingly tiny maybe, they all make a difference. Just like we heard in that story earlier that we were enacting about the turnip, that many joined their forces together to finally pull out this turnip. We had grandfather, grandmother, granddaughter, dog, cat, and they all pulled hard. But it was that mouse that added the needed strength to pull that turnip out. Even the tiniest participation makes the difference, teaching us to never underestimate that. I'm quite aware that some of us do the heavy lifting here and work extremely hard. There's such a thing as Pareto principle, named after an Italian economist who discovered the 80-20 ratio principle. And now it is recognized and acknowledged by every employer. And this ratio simple says that 80% of work gets done by 20% of people. The problem is that this is not sustainable in the church. People burn out, or they have to do things that they are not really good at. But when there's nobody else to do it, they jump in and they help. We all need to join in, and help, even if that help seems very tiny and small. And then there's one more thing that's needed to be an effective team. So both stories that you heard today about the turnip and then the story about the swans, pike, and crab, they're stories from my childhood. I grew up with them. The reading about the swan, pike, and crab who joined their forces together to pull a load, and all three were happy and glad to use the skills in which they exceed and excel. And they worked hard. They pulled and they pulled, but the load was not moving. And that's because they were pulling in a different direction. Swan flew up to the sky, crab crawled backwards, and a pike headed to the water. The fable concludes, now which of them was most to blame? This not for me to say, but this I know, the load is there unto this very day. This fable illustrates that we all need a common vision, an understanding of our common goal and how we want to get there. That without it, no matter how hard we work, the load will not move. And blaming either party is not going to move the load either. There is a story about a group of people in a boat. They were in the middle of a wide river when one of them took a drill and began to drill a hole in the boat underneath his seat. Everyone was horrified, and they asked the man, "Why are you doing that?" They pleaded him to stop. And the man said, "Why does it concern you? I'm not drilling under your seat. I'm drilling under mine." That's when the people cried out, "But you will flood the boat for us all." As a community, as a congregation, we are all connected. And if one of us starts drilling a hole, believe me, we may not have enough life vests here. Recognizing how our participation impacts the whole community is part of the process of becoming stronger and more effective team, because we're all part of this community. Our mission here is to nourish spirits, work for justice, and transform lives. We do this because we want to be a dynamic and nurturing religious community that celebrates our human diversity, supports lifelong growth, spiritual growth, and acts for compassion and justice in the larger community. Each of us is part of this mission and vision. You are part of this work to build a community that nurtures, grows, and acts. So, how are we doing? Is the load moving in a direction that we have set for ourselves? Are we living our mission and all working together toward our vision of a dynamic and nurturing religious community? How effective is our work together as a team, and what can we do better? Where are you in your life? How and where it is going? Which character from the two stories you identify with? The one that adds the tiniest difference, or the one that is working hard and inviting others to join in? Or maybe the one who's committed to work hard and use your gifts, even if it may not go in the same direction with others, and in the end, not move the load. In 2 weeks at our congregational meeting, we will hear from our leaders and celebrate all that we have accomplished together this year. But together we can look at our church, our needs, and move step by step toward our mission and vision. Together we can make a difference because we are stronger together, and we know there is power to be together.